History tells us one story about the D-Day landings. We learned that it was a very careful plan. Allied leaders planned every detail. They organized thousands of soldiers and ships. Everything was planned from the top. Generals gave orders. Soldiers followed them. This is what we usually hear. But what if this story is not the whole truth? What if one general got tired of waiting and being careful? What if he said no more to his leaders? What if this one general decided to do something different, something not allowed? What if he did something so brave and so bold that it changed the entire war? This is the story that many people want to believe. A story of one man who was strong enough to break the rules. A story of a hero who did not listen to orders. A story where one person's courage changed everything. But today, we will learn the real story. We will see what really happened at Normandy on June 6th, 1944. And we will learn why the real story is even more amazing than the myth. Let me tell you the story that people love to hear. Imagine a general. He is not like other generals. He does not like to follow rules. He is frustrated. He sees the plan that other generals made, and he thinks it is too slow. He thinks it is too careful. He thinks it will fail. This general is clever. He watches the other generals argue about strategy. Days go by, weeks go by. Meanwhile, soldiers are waiting. Ships are ready. Soldiers want them to fight. But the generals keep talking and planning. The fictional general gets angry. He thinks, we are wasting time. We need to act now. So he makes a secret plan. A plan that nobody knows about. A plan that goes against what his leaders told him to do. He thinks his way is better. He believes he can win with fewer soldiers and less planning. He decides to launch his attack before anyone says he can do it. He tells his men, we go now. We do not wait for more orders. We will change history. The soldiers follow him. They are brave. They land on the beaches. They fight hard. And somehow, this one general wins. The whole war changes. Hitler loses. The Allies win. And it is all because one man decided to break the rules. This is the story people love. A story of a rebel who becomes a hero. A story where one brave person changes the world. But now, let us learn what really happened. The true story of D-Day is very different from the myth. It is actually much more interesting and much more impressive. The real story shows us something important. Sometimes, the most amazing things do not happen because one person breaks the rules. They happen because many people work together in a very smart way. Operation Overlord was the name of the real D-Day plan. This was not done by one general. This was done by many generals from different countries. British generals, American generals, and Canadian generals all worked together. They met many times. They talked about every detail. They planned for months and months. The planning was incredible. Generals had to think about so many things. Where would the soldiers land? Which beaches were the easiest to attack? Where were the German soldiers? How many soldiers did they need? What kind of weapons would they use? When was the best time to attack? What about the weather? What about the moon and the tides? General Dwight D. Eisenhower was the top leader. He was American, but he had to work with British generals too. Eisenhower had to make the final decision. This was a very hard job. If he made the wrong choice, thousands of soldiers would die. If he chose the right time and the right place, the Allies could win and change the war. The planning was not fast. It took a long time. Soldiers trained for months. They learned how to fight on beaches. They learned how to work together. Ships were built and filled with soldiers, weapons, and food. Planes were ready. Thousands and thousands of things had to be prepared. This was not the work of one brave general. This was the work of many clever people who planned every detail carefully. Now here is something that shows real genius. While the generals planned to attack at Normandy, they also did something very smart. They made Hitler think something different. They made Hitler believe that the attack would happen at a different place. This plan was called Operation Fortitude. And this was the real secret to success. The Allies created a fake army. The leader of this fake army was General George Patton. Patton was famous. German leaders knew about him. So the Allies let German leaders see that Patton was preparing to attack at Calais. Calais is in France, but it is not where D-Day really happened. It is far from Normandy. The Allies made it look like Patton had many soldiers. They put up fake camps. They created fake radio messages. They told people that there was a big army ready to attack Calais. German leaders heard about this. They believed it. So Hitler kept many soldiers near Calais. Hitler thought the real attack would happen there. But the real attack happened at Normandy. This was very far from where Hitler thought it would be. So when the real soldiers landed at Normandy, there were not many German soldiers there to stop them. The German soldiers that were near Normandy were not strong enough. Many German soldiers were still near Calais, waiting for Patton's fake army. This was not because one general broke the rules. This was because many people worked together to trick Hitler. This was a plan that used smart thinking and careful work. This was the real reason why D-Day worked. It was not about one brave man who broke orders. It was about many people who understood how to use strategy and deception to win a war. Now, let us talk about the real heroes of D-Day. These were not generals who broke rules. These were regular soldiers who did something incredible. These were men who landed on beaches and fought an enemy that was ready to kill them. On D-Day, soldiers had to jump from ships into the water. They had to swim to the beach. They had to run towards German soldiers who were shooting at them. Many soldiers died. Many were hurt. But they kept going. They did this because they had to. They did this because their leaders gave them orders, yes, but also because they believed in what they were doing. The real heroism was not about breaking rules. It was about following orders even when you were scared. It was about helping your friends even when there was danger. It was about believing that what you were doing was right, even when it was very hard. Thousands of Rangers landed on 5 different beaches. All of them had to work together. Soldiers from America, Britain, and Canada all had to work as a team. Officers gave clear orders. Soldiers understood what they had to do. Doctors helped the hurt soldiers. Supply soldiers brought food and weapons. All of these people did their job. This is the true story of D-Day. It was not one person breaking rules and becoming a hero. It was thousands of people doing their job well, even when it was very difficult and dangerous. This is the real reason why the Allies won at Normandy. And this is why the real story is more amazing than any made-up story about a rule-breaking general. Let us now understand what the real leaders had to do. General Dwight D. Eisenhower was the top commander. He had to make the final decision, and this decision had to be right. Before D-Day, Eisenhower got advice from many people. Some generals said, "Attack now. We are ready." Other generals said, "Wait. We need more time. We need more soldiers." Eisenhower had to listen to all these people. Then he had to decide. And he knew that if he made a mistake, thousands of soldiers would die. The weather was a big problem. June was not the best time for sea conditions. The water could be rough. Storms could come quickly. If there was a storm, ships could sink. Soldiers could drown before they even got to the beach. Eisenhower had to wait for good weather. The moon was important too. Soldiers needed enough light to see, but they also needed darkness to protect them. Eisenhower had to pick a date when the moon was in the right place. And the tides had to be right. The water had to be at the right level. If the water was too high or too low, soldiers could not land the ships in the right places. Eisenhower was very stressed. He knew that this was the most important decision of the war. He knew that so many people would die. He could not sleep well. He thought about it all the time. Other generals told him to attack on one date. But then the weather got bad, so he had to wait. The soldiers got nervous. Everyone was waiting and waiting. Finally, the weather became good enough. Eisenhower made his decision. He said, "Tomorrow. We attack tomorrow." This was a very brave choice. This was not about breaking rules. This was about being strong enough to make a hard decision when you had to. This was real leadership. Now let us look at the other side. Hitler was the leader of Germany, and Hitler made some very big mistakes. These mistakes helped the Allies win. First, Hitler did not believe that the Allies would really attack at Normandy. He thought they would attack at Calais. So he kept his best soldiers far away from Normandy. When the real attack came, there were not enough German soldiers to stop it. And because Hitler believed the fake plan, he did not send more soldiers quickly enough. Second, Hitler had a problem with giving power to his generals. He wanted to make all the big decisions himself. But he was not always right. When the fighting started at Normandy, German generals wanted to send their best soldiers to help. But they could not do it without asking Hitler first. Hitler was sleeping. No one wanted to wake him up. So the German soldiers waited. By the time Hitler woke up and said yes, it was too late. Third, Hitler did not understand the Allies' plans. The Germans thought the Allies would be weak at first. They thought they could push them back into the water. But the Allies had prepared very carefully. They had brought so many soldiers, and so much food, and so many weapons. The Germans did not have a good answer for this. These mistakes were not because Hitler was stupid. Hitler was actually very clever in some ways, but he made bad choices. He did not listen to his generals. He did not understand his enemy. He believed a trick that the Allies played on him. And these mistakes changed everything. This shows something very important. In war, smart planning and teamwork are more powerful than one person breaking the rules. Hitler had power, but he made bad choices. The Allies worked together carefully, and they made good choices. That is why the Allies won. Now let us hear the real stories from soldiers who were there. These are not stories about generals breaking rules. These are stories about regular men who did amazing things because they followed orders and worked together. D-Day was not just one attack. It was 5 attacks. There were 5 beaches. Each beach had a different name. American soldiers landed at 2 beaches called Utah and Omaha. British soldiers landed at a beach called Gold and another beach called Sword. Canadian soldiers landed at a beach called Juno. All of this happened on the same day. At Utah Beach, American soldiers had to land quickly. They got off their ships and moved fast. The German soldiers there were not ready. They had believed the fake plan about Calais. So there were not many German soldiers to fight. The American soldiers moved forward. They helped each other. Officers gave clear orders. Soldiers followed them. Utah Beach was taken fairly quickly. But at Omaha Beach, things were very different. This beach was very hard to attack. The land was high. German soldiers were on top of the hill. They could shoot down at the American soldiers. When American soldiers landed, they could not hide. German guns shot at them from above. Many soldiers died on the sand. Many were hurt. The water turned red. But the American soldiers did not run away. They kept going forward. They helped their friends. They came together in small groups. Officers tried to organize them. Soldiers understood what they had to do. They had to move up the beach. They had to climb the hill. They had to fight the German soldiers. And they did it. It was very hard. Many died. But they did it. At Gold Beach, British soldiers also had to fight hard. German soldiers were ready. They had guns ready. They had explosions ready. But British soldiers were trained well. They knew what to do. They moved carefully. They helped each other. Slowly, they moved forward. At Juno Beach, Canadian soldiers had a hard job too. They had to move fast. They had to get off the beach quickly. They had to fight German soldiers. But Canadian soldiers had trained hard. They understood their mission. They worked together. They pushed forward. At Sword Beach, British soldiers had the same problem. German soldiers were ready to fight. But British soldiers had been preparing for months. They had trained with their officers. They knew each other. They worked together well. They moved forward, step by step. All of this was not because one general broke rules. This was because thousands of soldiers understood their job. Officers gave them clear orders. Soldiers followed the orders even when they were scared. This was real courage. This was real heroism. The real story of D-Day is about people who did more than they had to. Soldiers saw their friends get hurt. They could have run away, but they stayed and helped their friends. Officers could have been safe, but they went to the front and led their soldiers. Doctors could have stayed on the ships, but they came to the beach and helped hurt soldiers. This is what real heroism looks like. It is not about breaking rules. It is about doing what is right, even when it is hard and dangerous. It is about caring about other people more than you care about yourself. One soldier might see that his friend is hurt and cannot move. The rules say to keep moving. But the soldier helps his friend anyway. He carries him to safety. He risks his own life. This is courage. One officer might see that his soldiers need help. The rules say to send a message and wait for orders. But the officer goes himself. He runs to help. He shows his soldiers what to do. This is leadership. One doctor might see many hurt soldiers. He is very tired. He could rest. But there are more people who need help. So he keeps working. He helps one soldier after another. This is dedication. These are the real stories of D-Day, not stories of generals breaking rules, but stories of people who did their job well and also cared about each other. This is why D-Day was a success. Not because one person made a big mistake by breaking rules, but because many people did the right thing. Many people think that D-Day was the end of the story, but it was really just the beginning. After soldiers landed on the beaches, the real fighting started. This fighting was very hard and very long. After June 6th, soldiers had to move forward from the beaches. They had to move into the towns and villages. The German soldiers did not want to leave. They fought back hard. Every town was a battle. Every village had to be taken from German soldiers. The land in Normandy is difficult. There are many small trees and plants. There are many walls. Soldiers could not see far ahead. German soldiers could hide. Fighting in these difficult places was very hard. But the Allies kept pushing forward. They brought more soldiers. They brought more food and weapons. They brought more doctors. They organized everything very carefully. It was not fast, but it was steady. Slowly, they took more land from the Germans. In July and August, the fighting became even harder. German soldiers did not want to give up Normandy. They sent more soldiers to fight. They fought very hard. Many soldiers on both sides died. But slowly, the Allies were winning. Finally, in August, the Allies had pushed the German soldiers back so far that they could break out of Normandy. This was called the breakout. Now the Allies could move towards Paris and the rest of France. D-Day was not the end. It was the first step. And it took 2 more months of hard fighting to break out of Normandy. Now let us understand how D-Day changed the whole war. Before D-Day, the Germans controlled most of Europe. They were strong. Soldiers from the Soviet Union were fighting Germany in the east. But the Germans were still winning in many places. The war could have lasted many more years. But D-Day changed everything. Now, the Allies had a foothold in France. They had a place to stand and to push forward from. They could now attack Germany from 2 sides. Soviet soldiers were attacking from the east. Now American and British soldiers could attack from the west. Germany was now in very big trouble. German soldiers had to fight on 2 fronts. They did not have enough soldiers. They did not have enough weapons. They did not have enough food. Everything was getting worse for Germany. The Allies could now bring more soldiers to Europe. They could now bring more weapons and supplies. They could now plan to attack Germany directly. Before Day, Germany thought they could defend Europe. After Day, Germany knew they were going to lose. It took almost 1 more year to fully defeat Germany. But that 1 more year was a lot than it could have been. Day made the war shorter. D-Day saved lives. Day changed who won the war. Today, we remember D-Day every year on June 6th. People think about what happened that day. Why do we remember it? What does it mean to us today? First, D-Day shows us the power of people working together. It was not one hero. It was not one general breaking rules. It was thousands of people from different countries working as a team. British people, American people, and Canadian people all worked together. They had a common goal. And they achieved something amazing. Second, D-Day shows us that real courage is not about breaking rules. Real courage is about doing the right thing even when it is hard. It is about helping other people. It is about working hard and not giving up. The soldiers at D-Day showed us what real courage looks like. Third, D-Day shows us the cost of war. Many people died that day. Many more died in the months that followed. War is not a game. War is not a story about heroes. War is a very serious thing, where real people get hurt and die. We remember today to remember the people who died. We remember them to make sure we learn from history. Fourth, D-Day shows us that good planning and smart thinking can change the world. The Allies planned very carefully. They used tricks and deception. They organized everything well. This is what helped them win. Not luck. Not one person breaking rules, but good planning and smart thinking. Finally, D-Day reminds us that freedom is important. The Allies fought to stop Hitler and Germany. They fought so that people could be free. The soldiers who landed on D-Day believed they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. They believed they were fighting for freedom. And they were right. This is the real story of today. It is not a story about one general breaking rules and becoming a hero. It is a story about many people working together for something they believed in. It is a story about the power of teamwork. It is a story about real courage. And it is a story we should never forget. The myth of the unauthorized general who changed history is fun to imagine. But the real story is much more powerful. The real story shows us that amazing things can happen when people work together. The real story shows us what real courage looks like. And the real story reminds us that even one day, June 6th, 1944, can change the whole world.